Hello, and welcome to the dumpster fire that is the Backpedalers Podcast. I'm Jeremy, and the
I'm
Geeks
Matthew.
Addict. Matthew, the Geeks Addict, joins me at long last, and no one's watching. It's okay. It's Backpedalers.
Hey,
This is where the madness happens. This is the
spur of
show
the moment.
This is the show I tried to delete every month. It just keeps coming back to life.
It won't die.
So we just got done recording a new Paper Movies episode on Rambo First Blood Part 2, a fantastic movie novelization by David Morrell. And we made someone made a joke about Alan Dean Foster or something like that. And I said, oh, did you know that Alan Dean Foster wrote a treatment for Rise of Skywalker? So Alan Dean Foster really liked Force Awakens. What he didn't like about it was in his novelization, he brought up the Finn-Rey romance, and they said no and pulled it. So, and he absolutely hated Last Jedi.
Who didn't?
I can think of a few
that didn't hate it.
Yeah,
that was the first time I walked out of a Star Wars movie and thought, "Am I going to cry?" Because that really sucked.
It was embarrassing.
That movie hurt my feelings because it was so sucky.
So, let me get to Rise of Skywalker right here, right now. So, his idea for Rise of Skywalker was that Rey wasn't a Palpatine. Rey was just a girl who had a terminal disease as a child, and they melded her with a machine. And that's why she can learn things really fast, and it's why she can talk to BB-8. Because she's an android.
It makes sense. That would have made more sense. I mean, it's like with Ahsoka, like in the Clone Wars, she talked to R2 and understood everything R2 said.
I hate that.
In the films, people say, "Oh, Luke spoke to R2." Yeah, Luke talked at R2. Didn't know what he was saying in return. So, he's flying in the X-Wing. Did you look at the X-Wing little screen that came up with what R2 was saying on it? No, you didn't see that.
You remember in Heir to the Jedi when R2-D2's plugged into like an intercom and is speaking basic?
I don't.
I remember thinking that was weird. Yeah, Heir to the Jedi.
I remember he was holding a blaster and he was shooting.
That was also stupid. But there's this part in one of the many vignettes that is Heir to the Jedi, because I'm not quite sure what the point of that book was.
To reboot canon.
What a way to do it. You notice that they haven't done a single novel since where Luke Skywalker's the main character?
It was Kevin Hearn, right?
Yeah.
The author of that one. Sorry.
I don't think that's that person's actual name. I wouldn't have put my name on if I wrote something that terrible.
No, not at all. It was awful and embarrassing. And that was one of my first book reviews, I think. It was like the third one out of the gate, I think. Maybe. And it was like not a review. It was a rant.
Uh-huh.
And it was a review, but it was mostly a rant. We had noodles.
Noodle seduction.
Yeah, we had math. It was stupid.
I just think of the noodle scene as like, have you ever seen Ghost? Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore. The scene where they're like trying to hold hands and he's a ghost. It was like that, but with a noodle and the Force. Yeah. And they were both alive at that point. Spoilers. His love interest dies because his name's Luke Skywalker. He's the kiss of death to any female he comes in contact with. Even his sister died. His mom died. That's the beginning of it. Padme died in the E.K. Johnston's hit new book, Queen's Pregnancy.
Oh gosh.
That's the beginning of it. The book that Revenge of the Sith was based off of.
There's
E.K. Johnson actually wrote those novels, and George Lucas made the prequels based off of them. That's what you'd think if you read E.K. Johnson's Twitter.
Yeah, of course. And I saw that she also had like my editor told me to do this, but I ignored her. Like, yeah, we could tell.
Is she the worst Star Wars writer ever?
Maybe because I can't stand her books.
So for me with E.K. Johnston, because Chuck Wendig's books are bizarre in how horrible they are.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're such a weird style and they're just badly written on top of that weird style.
Yeah.
But E.K. Johnston's books are Johnston. There's a T.
Johnston. Yeah.
Are so bland.
They're
the most boring books.
And that last one. Go ahead. Sorry.
The only reason she gets like people to read them is because she's such a weirdo on Twitter.
Yeah. And it's like the line that was most ridiculous in that I think it was the last one. Was it the Queen's period? Was Anakin flying, and is like, I love flying, and then it goes on to something else, and it comes back to it later, and it's like Anakin speaking. He's like, I really love flying! ! It was just so stupid. So stupid. I hated that book. He had menstruation. It was just awful.
Oh, yeah. The menstruation is now a thing on Wikipedia. The dumpster fire that is modern Wikipedia.
Yeah. You know, I'm dreading this third book, Queen's Hope.
I wish they had called it Queen's Pregnancy, but they would have had to pay me money.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to find out how she gets pregnant in that book.
I can tell you how she got pregnant in the EU. They have that shit timed out. So when the Clone Wars comics were going on, the Republic comic series, they had a month count.
Wow.
And they had certain months after the Battle of Geonosis, and then it became like before the Siege of Coruscant. And there's this mini series called Obsession, and in it Obi-Wan's hunting down Asajj Ventress. Mm-hmm. Because Anakin thinks she's dead because he tied her up in a bunch of electrical cables and shocked her to the point where she lost an eye, and he threw her down a chasm on Coruscant. Like, once again, Asajj Ventress is thrown off a cliff.
Yeah.
To her not doom. But Obi-Wan and Anakin are taken away from the front lines, and Obi-Wan spends his time beating up bounty hunters and trying to figure out where Asajj Ventress is. Meanwhile, Anakin's boning Padme. And Obi-Wan shows up on Naboo after they have just had sex and they're having breakfast in bathrobes.
That's awkward.
And Obi-Wan's like, what are you doing? We gotta go find Asajj Ventress.
Oh, gosh.
To the point where they actually have, it's really cool. You get a little, I know this isn't Star Wars Legends, but we're getting me being super EU right now, so let's roll with it for a minute here.
Let's do it.
There is Obi-Wan and Anakin are sparring with lightsabers. Little hint at what is to come. And unlike in Stealth and Siege, where Anakin's mad at Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan had side-ass girlfriend named Taria Danson that he was boning at the camp. Oh, yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing in Karen Miller's books. Obi-Wan has another fling with another Jedi. But she's dying of weird space shellfish poisoning. That's what makes her different. Because she has no character otherwise. And Obi-Wan's mad at Anakin because Anakin won't tell him what he did to the Sand People attacking the clones and what happened to his mother.
Wow.
That's the main drama of Stealth and Siege, and it doesn't get resolved ever.
Well, it never will be.
Not till Kenobi when Obi-Wan figures out where that Anakin slaughtered those Tusken Raiders.
I would like to reread that book. I like that one. I get it right.
Yeah,
right
it's
there.
a great book. I'd like to reread it too when I get to it in the timeline. That and Plagueis are due for a reread.
I'm working on that one right now too. Very slowly. Have to take some
Yeah,
breaks on.
it's a slow burn, especially if you haven't read like everything. Which that's what I'm doing is I'm filling out certain books that are referenced in Plagueis that I haven't read yet, or it's been a long time since I read. Like Jedi Apprentice, I'm so removed from that because I was a child when those were out.
Yeah.
That I need to reread them because they're referenced.
Really?
A little bit, a tiny bit. I'm pretty sure they're referenced. Well, you get young Qui-Gon. Yeah, he's not a Padawan, but he's a young Jedi. Oh, there we go.
Wow.
That's
a blocker right there. Wow.
Yeah, it happens every once in a while. Big yikes.
People are dumb. Wow. But yeah, Star Wars is just one of those things. Like I get those ups and downs with Star Wars. You know, I'm happy with it. I'm disappointed with it. I'm happy with it again. And like right now, I've got it's like both feelings at the same time. Like you know me. I like to read the new stuff and the old stuff. We just talked about Shatterpoint. That was the last EU book that I read. I was I'm working on Plagueis, but I stopped at chapter 6. I've been taking detailed notes because I don't want to forget about it this time. But I had to take a break to read some other stuff that was just brand new released, and it's like now I'm getting into more of the High Republic stuff, and the YA books for the High Republic for me are horrible. They are so bad, and they're by really good authors, but they're just bad. The books are bad. There's no story. There's no character.
This dude is just something else.
Yeah, that's weird. I go away. I don't know how you can block people permanently. I accidentally did that to Adam that one time.
He just keeps making new accounts.
With the same... Wow. Is there a way to turn chats off while you're live?
Yeah, that'd
be nice. Maybe on YouTube. People go in the comment section and just write stupid stuff. We got nothing better to do. Nothing better to do. It's like, go talk about the Olympics or something.
Yeah.
Which
I'll be watching that after this.
You do? I don't pay attention to it.
I know you're not a big sports guy.
No. I mean, I would like to maybe. Do they even do what is that? Fencing anymore? They still do that?
Pretty sure that's a.
I mean, I wouldn't mind watching that. Still. I saw a picture of like the curling team, and it was like someone made a comment. It's like this looks like a bunch of dads that just like got together to do the curling and wound up at the Olympics. It's funny because they all like a couple of them have like a mustache, and just have the dad look. And so that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I don't know. We gotta talk about the ghosts, dude.
Yeah.
So this is initially why Matthew was invited on, is to talk about the ghosts in the Geeks Attic.
The ghosts, the demon, the weirdness.
Weird stuff. Let's talk about the weirdness. Stuff. You're a Ghostbusters fan,
big time. Oh yeah, there. But big Ghostbusters fan.
I'm not sure how this came up in conversation.
I don't remember. I think we had this conversation a long time ago, though, didn't we?
It's been a few months. Oh, I remember. So I was living on the burial ground. That's how this began. I've told you this, right?
You were living on?
Oh, so that whole part of town I was living in, where I live, was native land. Like it was taken from the Native Americans.
Wow.
Rob D's asking if you've seen the new Ghostbusters trailer. Yes, he has.
I enjoyed it, but I've learned my lesson from Star Wars. not to expect much. I can be excited. I'm ready to see it, but I'm not like diving into like, this is the best thing ever. Nothing's ever going to beat the original Ghostbusters for me. So that no matter what, I'm going to see it, you know, but I don't have hopes that, this is going to be the best Ghostbusters movie ever, but I'm excited for it. Some cool stuff they're doing. It takes place in Oklahoma, a fake city in Oklahoma. It doesn't exist, but it's still cool knowing that it is supposed to be here in this, this state. So that makes me happy.
But yeah, so I was living on the burial ground, as I like to call it, because all sorts of weird shit happened at this place. I had a roommate that went insane and became a junkie, who was a drug dealer. I watched this dude beat his wife in like the next building over. Another building across the way, one of my friends' roommates became like super schizophrenic and started like attacking people. There was like a gang fight and someone pulled a gun on some other people.
Jeez.
So like all these crazy things started happening. And I was like, why here? Why this apartment complex? And I was like, we're on native land. And there's like a tiny Native American cemetery in the middle of this part of town, but it's super tiny. And I have to imagine that that's not actually where the bodies are. The bodies are where my apartment complex is. It's bad.
Yeah, that is pretty creepy.
Also, I had visitors.
I don't think you've ever told me this.
Oh no, I don't think I have. So I got. Oh god, I haven't talked about the ghosts before. So when I lived at the Canyon house, the one that burned down, we would get ghosts on occasion. They would travel through our house and go into the canyon. They liked to sit on my bed and hang out with me, and I didn't like it. They weren't always people's. We had my cat Max, the black one, if you remember him from way back on the channel. He hung out with me a bunch. He would sit on my feet like he did when he was alive.
Wow.
But yeah, you had people, randos on my bed. You have to tell them to leave. But
I mean, was it like just like look like a person, or is it like transparent
I can't see
or glowy?
Can't see them. I feel them. They talk to me sometimes. Most of the time, they don't. But they sit on the bed and hang out because they can.
Like at night, day, anytime.
Nighttime. Usually, yeah. I've had most of them I've not known.
Yeah.
A few visitors. Hey, my mom's stepbrother visited me a few weeks ago. That was weird. Before I knew he was dead. I'm like, that's Jonathan.
Wow.
Sure enough, I get told, oh yeah, he died. Like a blood clot.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Blood clot. Did he have COVID?
No, he had heart problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know that stuff could be associated if you get sick. Like you're supposed to take like aspirin or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, he had all these he was having to have all these heart surgeries. But he died at like the age of like 42.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's sad.
But when I was at Pomona, the last apartment complex, that's when the weird shit happened. That was when I would get grabbed.
That's ew.
Yeah, I had like people. I had ghosts hugging me in the middle of the night. I'm like shit got weird there.
That is pretty weird. Did you ever hear
But why do you
noises?
think I hated it there?
Was it always just like touchy-feely and senses, or did you actually hear anything?
Oh, they would talk to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
Be like,
audibly or just like in your head?
I can't tell. Everyone be asleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was weird. Shit would get moved around, which also didn't help because my shitty roommate also broke into my room and stole things from me.
That adds to the confusion.
Yeah, it was wild. It was a wild year I lived there.
I had some weird stuff happen whenever I was in college.
Yeah, let's hear about it.
Now this I have no explanation for this one. Okay. In college, me and my roommates, we lived above this Christian bookstore, and back then, of course, that's my faith is Christian, and of course, everybody has their slip ups and they don't do things that they're supposed to do. I was in that time in college, and me and my roommates would just drink all the time. Not every day, but there'd be those nights, and I feel like that Christian bookstore that was below us, because we were like in a building downtown in this small little one street town, and then we had an apartment upstairs. And I think because of all the drinking and the stuff that my roommate was doing all the time, and the neighbors probably drove that business out. So that's when, after they were gone, some weird stuff started to happen in our apartments. My apartment was a 3-bedroom. It's pretty big. And one night, I remember this, it was so creepy. I had got this block of wood, okay? And I had a wood burner, like a wood burning kit. I thought, it's a small town. It's like, what do you do in a small town? But like, let's go to Walmart, okay? That's like the thing to do. And you like browse and you find, hey, look, there's a wood burning kit and a piece of wood. I want to go burn something in some wood. So I did, and I made like a little fantasy type map for this story that's been in my head. Well, the idea of it's been in my head for a while. I'm going to write it one of these days. But I made the map first, and I had it on display in my room in a window, and it had sat there for several months, not moving, just collecting dust. Nothing would knock it off. Well, one night, I'm in bed, my door locked, my roommate in bed, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and I like something came to me, and I was like, it was like, write this down, and I wrote this thing, like a brief 3-line little thing, and I remember one of the lines was like, a storm is coming. Later on, I go back to bed. I wake up to a thunderstorm in the middle of the night and thinking like, that was kind of weird. That's really weird. I go back to bed, I fall asleep, and the third time I wake up is to a really loud, like just popping wood slamming against something. And I shoot up out of bed and I quickly turn on my lamp. I'm thinking, did somebody just kick down my door? It was loud. And I turn my lamp on and I'm looking around, and I notice in my window where that wood map is not there. I'm like, what? And I get up out of bed and I see laying halfway underneath my bed is that wood map. And I go pick it up, and in that little wood plate and on the wood bed frame, they were dented. Something threw that thing across my room, hit my bed. I mean, and it was, my bed was on the other side of the room. Nothing can just, it's just going to fall off. No, I get up, my door's still locked. I'm like, okay, that's creepy and weird. I wasn't able to sleep the rest of the night. But I remember the next day in the morning, my roommate, he said, hey, did you come in my room last night? I said, no. Why would I go in your room? He's like, I don't know. I remember waking up and seeing a silhouette of someone standing in my door. We had a deadbolt in our apartment. So there was something lingering around that night in the apartment. That was creepy. Yeah.
That's the downside to apartments. You get shit like this.
Yeah. And that town, it's a small, poor Native American town. So who knows? Who knows what was going on? But it was a very dark, creepy moment there. How else did the thing fling across the entire room, slam up against the wood to wake me from my sleep? I've got it around here somewhere. I don't know exactly, but I'll have to show you guys the dent on it sometime. It was weird.
But you have a visitor in your attic.
Well, it was not really so much in the attic in this house that we bought. When I got married, we bought a house, and the people that lived here before were kind of strange. The husband apparently died, not in the house, but he had like cancer and something else. And then, like, I guess the family, I don't know if he died or they divorced and then he died. But later on, the lady got real sick with something. And that's when she was like, I'm selling the house and I'm going to go down, live in some other state to get medical treatment. And her kids, I remember when she was moving out, her kids didn't help her. And they were like out of high school, college age kids that were here whenever we were, looking at buying the house. And when we bought the house, we stopped over like the night before our closing date. And she's like, you got to come look at the house if you want. We get over there. She's packing stuff up and she starts complaining about her kids. Like, oh, the kids just won't help me move. And the kids like come walking out of their bed and like just leave the house. It's like, wow, crappy kids. Lady's sick. Her husband was sick and died. But finally we move in the house. Okay. And our bedroom is like on the north side of the house, and on the south side of the house, we're extra bedrooms. And of course we have the upstairs loft here, where it has access to an attic. But downstairs we used one room as a guest room, and the other room was a storage room. When we first moved in, it's like, just put all the extra stuff goes in here and we'll slowly dig things out. Every time we'd go over on that side of the house, it was always really cold for some reason and very creepy. Always just this vibe when you walk over on that side of the house is like, why is it so creepy over here? But it kind of like we had conversation about like, why is it so weird over on this side of the house? Maybe the kids were into like witchcraft or doing something they shouldn't be doing back in those rooms. Maybe, because they always associate like sickness and stuff with, supernatural, demonic, just weird stuff. So maybe there was something in here in this house was before that caused the sickness in these people, caused the conflict between the parents and the kids. And it just kind of lingered in that bedroom downstairs. But later on, eventually that storage room became like first child's room, like the baby room. Mm-hmm. But the kid stayed with us for a while in our bedroom. He had a little bed in there, but we'd still go back in that room and, change the diapers and stuff. And one of the creepiest things that I'd experienced was I was changing a diaper one day, and the lights were on, and I'm facing a wall because behind us is the door, like that goes into the room, and a shadow crosses over the wall where, the light's behind me. So I see my shadow in front of me, his legs shadow, whatever. There's a shadow that comes over the wall, and I'm thinking, okay, the wife's coming in the room. So I like turn around real quick because baby is looking that direction and starts screaming like in fear. And like I quickly turn around thinking the wife's in there. No one's there. But this shadow, I promise you, was on the wall. Jesus. Comes up and like walks by, and it's like, what was that? That's when everything kind of gets cold, and it's like, all right, let's wrap this up and get out of here. It was creepy. So what was that? What was that thing? There was other times when this is with the first child. One time, me and wife were kind of like arguing back and forth, which couples do. We're arguing, and we got the baby with us, and gonna go do like a diaper change, put him down to bed or something, and all of a sudden the room became real cold, and we just stopped. It's like, do you feel something different? And we both had this acknowledge of like something wasn't right in the room. Like something came in there. And then we looked, and that our child like all of a sudden starts vomiting up this white, just starts vomiting. It was like, okay, this is weird. Of course, kids, they spit up, but the timing of the room becoming ice, we both stop and just like, maybe what's going on here? And then he's just like, blah. It's like, creepy. But more things happen. Eventually the kid, he finally gets onto that side of the house, and things start to feel a little bit less creepy over there. And it's like, okay, maybe it's occupied now with one of the kids, and we have his lights on at night, and doors are open, so we know if anything's going on. I remember like it was like a Saturday, the weekend when I didn't have to get up early or anything. Me and the wife wake up. The baby, he's still little. He can't get out of his crib. He's just in his room sleeping. And we hear a really loud knocking on our bedroom wall on the outside in the living room. And that like made us shoot up out of bed. Like, what in the world? Like, I get out and we go look, and there's nothing at all to make that just like 3 knocks, super loud. It's like someone was like standing out there just like banging on the wall. It was that, nothing to explain that. Don't know what that was. We had conversations with one of my uncles too, who was real heavy into his Bible. He knew things forward back. When he came over to visit one day, we're like, we strongly think, we really do believe that there is something in this house. And we told him some of those stories. And there's more things too. I don't know if you want me to keep going.
Yeah. Dude, fucking, we need all of it.
I'm not making this stuff. Sometimes it's hard to buy into what people say. I know that. And biblically, there are things. It talks about it. There are demonic forces out there that will show up. There are things that will make noises. There's mockeries of God, to make people fear things. And it also says that there are some things. This is one of the creepiest things. Is like, you have the power. If you have the faith, you have the power to, rebuke these things and they'll leave. But sometimes you have to be in serious prayer. Like, you have to be in serious touch with your faith to be able to do such a thing, that puts that little bit of doubt in your head. Like, oh crap, maybe I don't have what it takes.
And that's what they feed off of. Like,
exactly.
I know that from other faiths and stuff, Yeah. Like, you can manifest these things go away.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta focus, And sometimes under duress, that's really hard to do.
Yeah, because you start to put like what freaks you out. You start to put that imagery in your mind. And I remember like when I was a kid, like thinking like, oh, I don't want to go in the garage, because if I go in the garage, I'm going to see like a zombie like sit up in the car, or like some sort of shadow figure sit up in the car and look at me. That's one of my fears. And like, I always thought like, that's what's going to happen. And like, you put that in your head. So that's what you think you're going to see. So you're scared. But with this stuff that has been happening in the house here, it was always just like that. What is it? What is doing this? I started sleeping in the guest room when we had another child, because I had to go to work. And that's when the wife was like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. We're going to raise the kids. It's like, okay, if you're going to be here and I've got to go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to go sleep in a different room so I can wake up and go to work and not have to keep waking up throughout the night, dead dog tired, while one of us is trying to make, a living. And that guest room, this is not the one that the child lived in, like the 1-year-old, however old he was at this time now. I was sleeping in the guest room, and one night, this was kind of creepy. Of course, all of this stuff is. I remember hearing an audible growl, like a dog growling in the room.
Duh.
And I remember laying there hearing it, and I'm thinking, is there an animal outside in the backyard? No, there's not. There's no way there's a dog in our backyard.
Because you don't have pets.
No. And the only animal that was around us was our neighbor, who had a Shih Tzu. So, If you ever heard one of those things, they're just little yappers. They're nothing. You don't hear one of those things like doing a rumble, a low rumbling growl. No. And like, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to go back to bed. And I hear it again. And then I'm not lying to you. I promise. The bed in there was a full size bed. Okay. When you're laying on one side and you pull the sheets over you, if the sheets are going to slide off, they're going to like start sliding off on the side that you're on, right? Mm-hmm. You'd expect, because you're holding on to them. You pulled them over to you. Oh, maybe I pulled it too tight and they're going to fall. The sheets were being pulled off of the bed the other direction. And I was like, okay, I hear this low rumbling growl sound, and I hear the sheets start to pull off, and I like kind of pull them back over, and it starts to slide over again. So I remember just getting up, grabbing my pillow, and going, nope, I'm going back to the bedroom. I just like turned the light on and walked out, and left the lights on and went back to the bedroom. That was a very creepy night.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like those sheets being pulled off that long direction that's empty. I wouldn't even deal with that. Yeah. That's when I was just like, screw this, I'm out. But my uncle, though, there's some other things that like I forget about over time. But I know when my uncle did come over, I know I didn't finish that part. He actually did come over and pray over the house, and things stopped. Things stopped for a while. Didn't have any issues. I know Ashley, my wife, had a dream one night. This was, I still probably with the second child, maybe, or maybe the first. I can't remember. Timing. I get thrown off with timing sometimes. Had a dream about our upstairs room, and I'm trying to get this straight. Had a dream about the upstairs where something was up here wanting our first child. It's like it's wanting to get him. And the next day or a couple days after, she gets a phone call from like her cousin. It was like, hey, I just wanted to check to see if everything's all right with your kid. And I had this vision about your upstairs for some reason. And that was like a red flag of like, wait, what? You had a dream about our house, an upstairs? She didn't know that we had a 2-story house. This is like, what did you have? What vision did you have? And speaking of the upstairs thing, I think we were filming, or I was doing a video. We might have streamed earlier that night, a year ago, because my computer was in this spot. And I remember talking into the camera. I think it was just me. I see a shadow. I have a little light switch here there's a light to the whole room. I can turn it off and on. It was on, and I see a shadow over by this. There's a door. I can see a door right there, which has the stairs. I see a shadow, kind of like, I thought it was the wife crawling up the stairs, like just being weird or whatever. No, nothing was there. And I look over, I'm like, oh, I know I saw a shadow crawl up that last stair.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this one before.
Yeah, and I got creeped out. I was like, that's creepy. I know I saw something just right there, big shadow, like a person crawling up the stair. And then I started just like, okay, I'm going to just forget about that, keep doing it. And then I see a shadow again over behind this other computer desks right over here, where this computer used to be, and my wife's computer right in front of it. And I saw a shadow lean out from there and then go back. And that's when I got up and I kind of looked around over there and like, I'm calling it a night. I'm done. And I just like turned everything off up here and just went down the stairs. And occasionally some weird stuff happens. And I don't know what it is.
You need to move.
I'd like to. That's the plan eventually. But I think there is something that does linger around.
You've talked about a lot of bad with it, and I want to bring up that these things aren't always bad. Part of the problem with like a spirit or something like that, I find, is that they have a hard time communicating with us, and we have a hard time communicating with them, and that in and of itself causes problems with fear.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying with a lot of these, there's some malice and like anger.
I really think it was tied into with what happened here before. You know, with the two adults that lived here, both getting sick, like really bad sick. You know, like cancer, and the other one I think it might have been lupus or something that was like bad that she had to go live in a hospital with. And you know, the two kids like just saying, "Screw off, mom. I'm not helping you do anything," and leaving the house, not helping her pack up their stuff. I think there was something going on, you know, and it just opened up a door. And hopefully, you know, I try to close it, but
yeah, I wouldn't say you live in what I call a bad place, if you're familiar with that kind of terminology.
The what?
Like a bad place where something evil happened.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it taints it. I've been in one of those before. We did this pickup at my last job. And it was this trailer in the middle of the woods, way up in Northern California. It was an old single wide. I do believe it was a single. And I've told you some of this story before because my quintessential, like, we found this antique table in there.
Mm-hmm.
And we walked in, and it looked like it had been a meth cookhouse that had gone wrong, and half of it had burned down. Huge chemical fire had happened. It was covered in garbage. There were black widow spiders everywhere.
Yeah.
It was nasty, but it was bad in there. It's hard to describe, but something horrible had happened in there, and something lingered. And it had my coworker and I on edge the whole time. This dude was trying to flip the property to sell it, and he was literally like fine with me on the phone. Like, we had a normal conversation, and then when we didn't take a lot of his stuff because a lot of it was trash, he freaked out and like yelled at us and just lost his shit. Like, he was acting like a crazy person. And I think it just got to him in the span of a couple hours.
Yeah.
And
this dark stuff does linger around, man. It is creepy. I know there was something that I had when I was a little kid. I remember it too. I remember it. Like, I have no doubt that this was a real thing that happened. And I have some thoughts on it too. Of like now, when I was a kid, I remember laying in bed, rolling over, and this house, it was on an Air Force base. My sister, she was scared all the time. She said she would see things in the hallway. Like, her bedroom was like at the end of a hallway, and when her door's open, she could see down the whole hallway. I remember she said that she remembers seeing a little girl all the time with her eye sockets blackened out, like they were burnt out. Saw it all the time. Yeah, and she would always like freak out in the middle of the night and come running over and like jump in my bed. You know, we were like little kids, so I mean, I wouldn't say little kids. I was like my tween. You know, I was in junior high, 6th grade or 5th through maybe 8th grade is when we lived here at this place. And my sister, she's 2 years younger than me, so she would get freaked out. And I could be wrong about the age. We could have been younger, but I'm pretty sure it was junior high age. But anyway, I remember laying in bed and rolling over one night, awake, looking over at my bedroom door, and it was closed, but there was a figure standing in front of it in the corner, like, you know, where the door meets the wall, where you'd open it up to it, but that doesn't matter. I saw a figure in the wall, in the corner. It was tall. It's a tall figure. It's so tall that its head was bent over because it couldn't stand up straight. It was wearing a white robe, just like a bleached white robe. Its skin, you see its hands and its face were red, like a bright red color,
Oh.
and its hands were really long, and they went past the waist. It had blonde hair, which was really long, that also went way down past the waist. And I remember the nose being very pointed and curved down. But it just looked at me. It was just standing there watching me. That's it. And I remember just like, I could see it in my head. And I remember just like, just roll over the other direction and just laid awake until I passed out. But, in the Bible, biblically, angels are terrifyingly, like they look terrifying. When people see them in the Old Testament, they always fall to their face in fear. And I'm like thinking, like, maybe was that like a guardian angel? Maybe was it something else? Just checking in to see. All right, yep, he's in bed. All right, I don't know, but I remember it just standing up tall, so tall. It had to arch its head down because it was so tall, just watching. And then I just scared and rolled over, and that was it. No communication, nothing like that. But I remember that, man.
Shit. It was scary. I don't think of an angel in red skin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it says they're like, basically, I mean, anybody who saw one dropped to their face in fear and covered their, like, didn't want to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Dang.
Doing that or something else. I remember the neighbor kid, that Air Force Base housing. I remember him telling me when we went on vacation and came back, he's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I saw something like go through your door." Like, what do you mean you saw something go through the door? He's like, some glowing thing like went through your door, your front door. I was like, okay, thanks. Don't know what that was.
That's weird.
Mm-hmm.
That's so weird. I've got like the shakes going on right now. Ugh.
Yeah.
Damn.
Just creepy stuff. I believe that stuff. I know everybody's got their own visions and sees things and beliefs and everything. But I think there is stuff out there.
Yeah.
It's hard to see.
You and I have talked about the past life stuff, which is not something you are really into or believe in, sort of thing. As he chokes.
Sorry, I was choking him. They're trying to shut me up. It's a conspiracy. No. Go ahead and continue. I'm sorry. I just got a choking fit, coughing fit.
I mean, I told you about my whole spiritual thing that happened. Well, actually, I didn't tell you about the first one. I told you about it in passing. But I had a horrible dream about someone that we were kind of close at the time, but like now we're just more acquaintances. I had this horrible dream that something was wrong, but it was weird. I'm going to throw something at a concept that I kind of believe in here. I believe that all time is happening at the same time. Everything that was and will be, it's all happening at once. It's not linear. It's this whole thing. And I say this because I had a dream, and it was one of the most vivid dreams I have, and I think I consider it a past life experience, where I went into such a deep trance that I had this dream that my friend and I were living in feudal Japan, and I was tasked with protecting her, and she was murdered. And I ended up fighting a bunch of people. And then I died, because this is something I've done past life meditations. This is something that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But when it happens to you first time, it's horrible.
Isn't this? I think I remember you telling me something about this with back pain, right?
This is I'll get to that one.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
that was a trance I went into.
Okay.
But this was the thing. I woke up really early in the morning and I felt horrible. And I felt horrible for days. And I didn't see her for days. Like, no one like talked to her or anything. And I finally talked to her and she's like, yeah, my boyfriend held me hostage. But she lived.
Yeah.
And he went to jail.
Wow.
But yeah, that was weird. But then, so she and I, there's a few people in my life where in other lives that I know for sure I've interacted with them before and had various relationships with them. She, though, has come into several lives because the one I'm talking about, we were married once in a previous life. So I did this past life meditation, which was a guided meditation for those of you who don't know what this is, as we lose all of our viewers because we're talking about ghosts and past lives here on the Backpedalers.
Yeah, and demons.
Demons. Ugh. And we're not talking Angels and Demons, the Dan Brown book.
No.
Get more views that way. Anyway.
I forgot to hit mute. I'm sorry. I thought I hit it.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm pretty sure someone's farted on this podcast. But anyway, so I did this past life meditation. I just felt like I needed to do that. And it opened with going back and... Oh, that's my mom. I thought someone was lurking out the window because we've had all this talk. No, it's my mom. I currently stay with my parents right now, people, because I don't have a place to live. Because the place I was moving into had a catastrophic plumbing malfunction. Yeah. So I don't have it doesn't have a bathroom right now, so I can't move in yet.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm basically going to have new plumbing when I move in.
Well, there you go. That's good.
Yeah. Considering it's a former motel. So.
That's weird.
Yeah, that'll be a new experience. Anyway, so I was feeling terrible a few months back. I was dealing with the ghosts around this time. The ghosts touching me and stuff. We've already went over that like an hour ago. But I had this... Sometimes you just have these immense times of suffering, I've found, before you figure something out in your life. And then it's like, oh, it's getting better. This was one of those. And I decided on a whim, I'm going to study past lives. And I found a guided meditation from this gentleman whose name's escaping me right now. But he wrote a book called Many Faces, Many Masters. And he's been on like Oprah and stuff, and he's studied past lives. And so he did this guided meditation. I listened to it in my headphones, and I went into the deepest meditation I've ever had up until this point. Things were weird, Matthew. I witnessed my birth.
It could be traumatic.
I was born C-section, and I was handed off to my grandmother, not my dad. My dad was really worried that my mom was going to die. I was handed off to my grandmother, and I ended up calling her, and she said, yeah, that's what happened. I was never told this.
Huh.
Then I went deeper back, and I went to ancient Greece. And I was like some sort of scholar. and I was just studying the landscape, and then I was part of in ancient Greece. The Spartans ended up conquering the rest of Greece and tried to rule it, and it failed. Well, I was one of the people that was killed when the Spartans invaded. And sure enough, my friend that I was talking about was dying in my arms, my wife of that life.
Wow.
And then I got stabbed in the back with a javelin. One of the worst pains I've ever had in my life, and I panicked. And I got lost in this meditation. And I ended up coming to, and my back hurt for 3 days. Like the tissue, the spinal cord, it all hurt for days.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. And that's something, because I actually suggested to you to try a past life meditation, but then my caveat is oftentimes it doesn't end well, and you have to be prepared for that, and you have to accept that this happened a long time ago to us, but also at the same time as us. Because all time is now.
See, I understand kind of what you mean by that. I mean, it's like, even like biblically, it's like we have a story of how things started, and we already know how things will end. Prophecy that's been written back then has come true, you know, and it's just like, what's next? You know, we see in like the Old Testament is talking about when like Israel splits apart, and you know, one day they'll come back together, and then 48 they finally came back together. You know, it's like just some of this stuff is just wild, and something big at work, you know, going at it. And there's all sorts of weird things that people dive into, and like witchcraft. I think that I believe truly 100% that people dive into witchcraft and do weird things, you know, cast spells and put, like, heck, a majority of America right now, I think, is under some sort of spell, you know?
I think I'll throw my opinion in here to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying. I will say that I think many people are starting to realize the facade that is what we perceive.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone treats it in an enlightened way. I think certain things, we talk about this all the time, because I mean, since both our entire lives, people have said we've been in the end times, but people have said we've been in the end times for hundreds of years.
Yeah, well, 1,000, 2,000.
Yeah, and it hasn't ended.
No, well, the funny thing is like now, even like now, when you look at stuff, because me and the wife have been talking about this a lot, and I just read Revelation, and throughout the whole book, there's not just that book, but like the Bible, there's things that 2,000 years ago that they say, oh, this is what it means. The times they're over, they're going to be over. No, because later on down chronologically, there's other prophecies that haven't been fulfilled yet, which have been. And I have this one study where it has notes in it from 1900. Okay. Things have happened since those notes were made that have come true, that have passed, that, you know, when this guy's writing his notes, it's like, hey, that's crazy that he mentions this and it hasn't happened yet, but now it has. It's like you see where certain things are building up. It's still even in the last one, when it says something about the days of the Gentile over Jerusalem are over, this generation shall not pass before, you know, things get wild, basically. I mean, what generation are you talking about? I mean, it could be another 1,000 years, it could be another 2,000 years. We don't know the timeline of, you know, this infinite God, of what his plans would be. You know?
Yeah.
It's been 2,000 years so far since, you know, the calendar's based off of Christ 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Everything kicked into gear. So how many more thousands of years do we have? How many? Maybe it's tomorrow. Who knows? But it just, things come together in weird ways, and the time frame is.
I think it's something that none of us should even worry about.
No.
So it's the whole thing, because it's really easy, because I've read Revelations as well. I read Revelations in middle school, of all times. I was like, well, how does this book end?
Yeah.
I went to Christian school. I don't know if I've ever told you this or not, but yeah, I went to a Christian school for kindergarten and first grade. So I had a general understanding, because my family didn't really go to church a lot past like my early elementary school days. And you're a Bible person, but you're not a church person. I want to make that clear for the crowd here. You're not into the church.
Well, I mean,
the church system.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a lot of things out there that we went to one. We've been going to one. We haven't been in over a year, but I played guitar in the band for a while.
Yeah.
But there's things that I think a lot of this stuff nowadays is just sugarcoat, make things the people pleasing, good time. Oh, good times are always going to be here. You got your mega churches that preach these messages is just all about, oh, you can be anything you want. It's like, you're not talking about what's in the book. You're just telling people what they want to hear to make them feel better about themselves.
It's either that, or it's so downtrodden and controlling. That was my experience with it, especially in when I was in private school, because we didn't go to that church. We'll say that church led to some cool things going there. I met the guy who played Radar on MASH. His kids went to school. I went to school with his kids. They were older than me. I think they were like either in high school or middle school when I was in kindergarten.
Still cool.
But yeah, I think his kids are right about your age, maybe a little older. Because that's a whole thing with Matthew and me. Matthew once showed me a picture of him in 8th grade, and it was like 2000 or something like that. And I found a picture of me in kindergarten.
It got weird.
When you just drop the bomb of I'm just significantly younger than Matthew child. And Adam and Matt, especially Matt. I once told Matt that he could have been my father. If he had a child his senior year, he could be my dad.
That's so weird to think about.
It is, but we didn't think about it. And then because I thought Matt was younger than he is, and he thought I was older than I was. Because I have a thing with history and like culture and stuff, and studying it is specifically like the 70s, 80s, and 90s I found really interesting.
Yeah. So
I know a lot of the pop culture from just studying it and like going out of my way to experience a lot of it. And as much as you can as a historian rather than living it.
Right.
I also have a very good memory. Like, I was thinking about this in the car because you and I talk some politics and stuff in our Marco Polo chat on occasion, not so much now.
Right.
It's such a negative topic. We avoid it.
Yeah.
But earliest memories, Matthew, of like what was going on in the world. Remember Columbine?
Oh yeah.
And I remember Clinton's impeachment process.
Yeah.
And not so much that it was happening. Like, I had no comprehension. I remember my dad and my grandfather being really mad at the president. And I remember my family being really happy that W won.
You are a child.
That was what, 2000?
Yeah, I remember being, and that was, I think, might have been 2002-ish, 2001 or 2 maybe. I remember studying all that stuff in junior high school.
Yeah, because I remember Bush Kerry, the re-election was 2004.
Yeah.
So it was 2000. Because I remember that because we went to visit back east and we went to Maine, which Maine is a swing state. And that's how I learned what campaigning was at the age of 10. Was seeing it because I've lived in California my whole life. It's blue as it comes here.
Yeah.
There's more campaigning now because the northern part's kind of red. So you still see people driving around with the Trump flags on their trucks and stuff, but you won't see that south of here.
Right.
But you get a little bit of it, but it's nothing like New Hampshire or Maine is.
Yeah.
It just takes over the states.
Yeah.
All the merchandising.
The merchandising.
Get your Bush doll. There were Bush dolls.
Yeah.
So weird.
The bobbleheads, presidential bobbleheads.
Bobbleheads. Get your Kerry and Bush bobbleheads.
See, I actually got to see George W. Bush speak at my cousin's graduation.
That's right.
I got to. I shook Bill Clinton's hand, and I remember like immediately after that, my dad was like, "Hey, we got to go wash our hands." I was like, "Okay." We went straight to the bathroom and washed our hands. And I got his autograph, and I think I have Bush's autograph too from like my dad. I think might have met him or an uncle, somebody, but yeah. Get to see two presidents.
There you go.
I know a lot of people who get to see a lot more. I saw Air Force One a couple times and Marine One, so that was neat.
The only thing I missed it by like 10 minutes. Bernie Sanders came to where I live and campaigned.
Yeah.
Which was super weird. Because I live in a college town. Came to the college.
Oh, yeah, of course he did.
I'm not the biggest Bernie Sanders fan. I appreciate that he genuinely believes in what he does, where he fakes it really well.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not my thing, but I applaud it. So many of those people who are just the political caste, as I like to call them, are upfront fake.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw this one out here because I think Matthew shares my sentiment. In Plato's The Republic, a book that Matthew's not read, but I highly recommend. One of the dialogues in it, the main character Socrates, is there's discussion on who should rule and who the best king would be. And Socrates says something, and I'm going to paraphrase it, that philosophers should be kings and kings should be philosophers. The term philosopher king is used as the best ruler. And then if you read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, he actually takes that into play. But Marcus Aurelius never thought he would be emperor of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why his approach was different. But the thing is, you can never have that in our society because people run for election.
Yeah.
And those aren't philosophers, because a philosopher wouldn't necessarily, a true philosopher, in my opinion, would never desire power like that.
Yeah.
Unless your name's Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand is the goblin of a human.
Yeah. You see, I don't we probably don't, I don't know how political you want to get about some things. I mean,
well, no one's watching.
Just someone's going to make it here. Like the thing that I always wanted, I always thought, you know what? We got to stop with the the people that keep kissing butts and, promising false promises that they'll never follow through on. There needs to be a businessman, somebody that knows how to run something, get something going, knows how to push things through. Mm-hmm. And that's what I liked about our last guy, with Trump. He's a businessman. Before him, there was a guy, the last presidential election before that, Herman Cain. He
Herman
was my
Cain and
vote.
the allegations of Herman Cain.
I mean, he was a businessman.
Yeah,
And people always like, oh, black, you can't vote for black Republican. They're fake. It's like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
The guy I used to listen to him when he was like a talk show radio host. He would sub for a guy that I used to listen to. And I always thought, like, man, this guy he needs to run for office. He used to get phone calls all the time. I was like, you should probably run for office. And eventually he finally did. And I was like, that guy's getting my vote. It didn't work. But then, the next election, another businessman got up there, Trump. Everybody laughed about it, thought it was ridiculous, but pulled it off.
I will say the problem with the last administration was the tweeting over everything, basically everything else about it. It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
It was 4 years of people being upset.
The media always pushes their narrative, and people can be awake to it, and they see things. I mean, like with Twitter, the stuff that happened in January, I watched what happened on Twitter before it was pulled down, and then the media twisted things. It was incredible. To see it reminded me straight up of Star Wars, of that scene where things are getting shifty with what's his name, the Emperor Sidious, before he reveals himself. He lies to everybody. Everybody starts buying into it. And what's that line that she says? Liberty is how liberty dies.
Thunderous applause.
Yeah, people just die. They just believe everything they hear.
It was insane. It was just insane that it came to this, that the country still is. It's so divided, especially with what's been going on. It's just terrible. It's terrible that the human race has allowed, the first world in particular, has allowed itself to become so divided as a whole.
Yes.
The enlightened world.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know what happened to humanity, that had everything, and now it's like they want nothing. People think, a man created equal. I mean, we should all have the same rights, obviously, but are men created equal? No, they're not.
I would say that they are, because we all die. That's equality.
In that sense, yes.
The base of equality right there. Is yes.
My thoughts is like,
else...
people are born with, obviously you have smarter people. You have people that have 4 fingers instead of 5. Some people have 6 fingers. Some people are born without their leg. Some people, born with mental disabilities, that like, we're not all born equal in the sense that everybody thinks for some reason that we are. And there's nothing wrong with not being equal in that sense. You know what I'm saying? Some people have to go around in a wheelchair while others don't. It's like everybody has to count their blessings. Like, we might have legs while the guy in the wheelchair has some pretty sweet biceps that I just don't have. You know what I mean? It's just, everybody
it's about what you make of it. Is what
exactly. Everybody just needs to be kind to each other. It's why, like, I like, and like bringing back the Star Wars stuff. Like, I like the old and I like the new. I mean, I hate a lot of the new. I hate some of the old stuff, but I keep a balance. And I'm not going to judge anybody that says, like, Out of the Shadows, the new one, it sucks. I haven't finished it yet because it's so dull and boring. And there's people out there like, what? You haven't finished it? This is the best thing ever. And it's like, that's your opinion, and I respect that.
I'm always happy when someone likes someone's work. I mean,
me too.
We trashed E.K. Johnston at the beginning of this stream, but I'm always glad. Like, Adam's wife, prime example, liked Queen Shadow.
Yep,
it's good. It's good. Not everything's. I mean, I have the opinion of, like, Alien Cold Forge, the last Alien book I read, by a guy who writes almost exactly like Chuck Wendig and looks like Chuck Wendig. I don't like that, but most people do. I'm in the minority on that one, and that's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay to like things,
but people want to shout at you. Things. People want to shout at you if you don't. You're like Claudia Gray. She's a great author. The last book that she wrote, I gave it an F, and people are like, "You're stupid." It's like, okay.
People want to be in conflict, and this isn't like but get back to the general thought here. That's not what we need to do. Everyone's angry and they just want to fight one another, and it's like,
I know.
come on, people.
Yeah, it's like the bad thing about social media.
It's the bad thing about humanity.
Yeah.
Humanity is always trying to fight itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's been doing it long before social media.
Yeah,
it's like
it's true. Yeah,
you can't rely on this like technology and stuff because it's not enlightening us in like a spiritual way to a degree, with the exception of you can find information easier,
yeah.
but that has a cost, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Whether it's misinformation or things you don't want to hear.
Yeah, and everything nowadays is being censored with this misinformation. They like to spice words up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I mean, have you switched your Instagram filter yet? The sensitivity filter or whatever it's called?
I don't think so.
So they changed it on people and didn't say anything. I ended up switching mine so that all things are blocked because I have friends in all sorts of different industries and stuff, from doing film and people posting like modeling and stuff, and it's deemed too sexual and it gets pulled, or they get shadow banned, which I think is the most ridiculous concept out there.
Yeah.
Banning someone from like getting followed and not like telling anyone, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. There's a lot of nonsense going on, and it's like, it's funny because on Facebook somebody put up a joke post about people are offended by the payday candy bar because, you know, people don't like to go to work, something like that, and it had a fact check underneath it saying that the company is not rebranded, and it was legit. It was real, a fact check about the thing being changed, just because it had the political thing in there of like, oh, people got offended by this. Fact check: they did not change the name of the candy bar. People are not actually upset. You're like, wow.
Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But like, one of the people that I find very helpful is a man named Eckhart Tolle. He wrote The Power of Now, which was a big deal. New Earth. But he says that we're on the verge of some sort of enlightenment where we're going to get destroyed. But I don't know what that entails specifically. But we're on the cusp of something.
Well, you know, there was a big earthquake today in Alaska.
Yeah?
You heard about that, right? No, you didn't hear about that?
No,
8.2 in Alaska. It's like off the coast. Yeah.
Dang.
This is one of the biggest in U.S. history in about 50 years, I think.
That's crazy.
So, yeah. So, we used to have earthquakes in Oklahoma quite a bit.
We had one actually 2 weeks ago in California that shook this far north from the fault line. Like, it shook for like a good minute, and I'm on the second story of this building, and it was an experience. It wasn't dangerous.
Right.
We're too far north.
I remember in one of my old workplaces, we worked in one of the skyscrapers downtown, and you'd feel like the shake real quick, and it's like, oh, should we be in this building? But apparently they made the buildings, the skyscrapers, to be able to rock back and to move.
Yes.
So
I can tell you, architects go to school. That part of the NAB, National Architecture Accreditation Bureau. I think that's what NAB stands for. It's NAAB. You have, I think it's 5 or 7 exams. I know I wanted to go to school to be an architect. Yeah. Part of that is preparing for natural disasters. So in Oklahoma, you would prepare for tornadoes and earthquakes. California, you'd be earthquakes and fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been looking at going to school in Honolulu.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, live somewhere tropical.
A little paradise.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Hawaii's in a drought.
That's weird.
Oh, all the West Coast is in a drought. California's in a super drought.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it keeps
sucks.
catching on fire. We've been in a
That sucks.
drought for decades. It's just getting worse. It's
That's
not
crazy.
enough water for the amount of people here.
Yeah.
Bunch of
That's-
California was never designed to have human beings or crops grown.
I mean, like where you are, aren't you basically surrounded by woods? Isn't your city
Yeah.
just kind of like out in the middle of like just
Woods
forest?
and plains.
Okay.
There's grassland and stuff like a lot of California.
Yeah, a lot of weird geographical things.
California's just huge.
Yeah.
It has almost every climate zone except for tropical. It doesn't have any tropical climates.
Yeah.
But it has the Death Valley, the second hottest desert in the world's in California. That's
So
way
bizarre.
That's like 8-9 hours away from me, though.
Jeez.
It's
Yeah, I think
huge.
like the longest drive in Oklahoma that I could think of would probably be a 9-hour drive to get from one side to the other. And it's like that panhandle. That's what makes things so long.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
But that's only if you go up to that, you could probably do shortcuts to make it, a smaller trip. But from where I'm at in the middle, it usually takes about 3 hours to get to all the other places, like in the corners.
Mm-hmm.
Except up from the panhandle, of course, like I said, it's like 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah, here I live closer to Oregon than I do to Los Angeles. That's how north I am. I'm about, I think, 2.5 hours away from the Oregon border.
Okay, so you're in Northern California. Where are you at, like Bohemian Grove? You heard of that?
I don't know.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. I try not to travel south of where I live, south of Sacramento.
I think it's by the redwood forests and stuff.
Oh, it's over by the coast. Oh, that's a whole nother beast. There's a mountain range you got to go through to get there.
Have you not heard of the Bohemian Grove?
I'm kind of familiar.
The conspiracy theories?
No.
We're gonna do this again sometime and talk about some conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to have you on next week.
Well, I'll try. We were just watching a video. I've in my college. Sorry, I took classes in conspiracy theories. We had a professor came in and taught it for 2 semesters before he was fired. I think one of the criminal justice teachers, she was heavier, and I think he called her like Miss Porky.
Oh my! He did not.
He got fired.
Yeah,
he was like
a
he was a cool guy though, but like that lady, she was kind of like a jerk. Yeah, that friendly professor. She'd always be like, everybody needs to, he's like, okay, lady, come on, calm down. But yeah, it was funny. But he taught for a couple semesters and did conspiracy theory classes. Those were cool. That was fun. Talking about like lizard people and stuff, and just all the other stuff that went on. That little conspiracy theories throughout the United States, mostly. So, it'd be fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Pull up some documentaries.
We need to wrap it up for tonight.
Sounds good.
Yeah, you were like, "Oh, we got to make this a short one." It's almost 90 minutes.
Almost an hour and a half. But hey, it's what happens when you have fun. It flies.
Exactly.
Thanks for having me here. Talking about our supernatural experiences.
And spiritual.
Yeah.
This is the podcast everyone unsubscribes from.
Yeah. The one that gets us both canceled.
Yeah.
Did you hear that Geeks Addict mentioned the Bible over on Stupid Chainsaw Productions? Cancel it.
That crackpot Jeremy's talking about past life wives.
He got stabbed by a spear.
Yeah.
We are making fun of people.
He got in a weeaboo sword fight. In a dream.
It's just gonna start getting like all bizarre, and we're like, yeah, Matt was he had an exorcism in his house.
His baby puked like in the movie.
Yeah, his head spun around and everything. Go watch this. Go watch Backpedalers. That's what you got to title it. Backpedalers, demonic possession and
ghosts. Ghosts, demonic possession, and past lives.
Yes. There you go. The supernatural episode.
I mean, this is the definition of Backpedalers right here, just rambling.
It's fun to do that, though.
That's why there's a podcast for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining me, Matthew. Go check him out at the Geeks Attic.
Thank you.
And I will see you all at some point. Good night.
Bye.